Tears of the Kingdom is right around the corner, and as such, I wanted to make a video about Breath of the Wild and its locations, which ones are the best and which ones are the worst. I'm going to be doing this in no particular order until we get to the last three. And if you're wondering, I'm going to be focusing on the areas with their own Sheikah towers, and ranking the areas that get revealed once you reveal one. We'll be ranking based on the environment, the notable areas, the shrines, the side quest, and the notable shrines that interest me, as well as anything else that I might feel like talking about. Now then, let's start off with the lake regions. It sure is a region that exists. You can certainly do things in this region, like walk around, defeat enemies, and breathe air. The shrines in this area also exist, and they are indeed shrines. As you can probably tell, this is a very boring area. The other thing worth talking about here is the side quest that allows you to get the giant horse. He's a big boy, and I love him, but besides that, this area is going for in the M tier for mid. Lanayru is very mixed in my opinion. The first time you come here, the area is in a perpetual state of rain due to Varuta, and as such you need to take the long and dangerous route, meaning that you are forced to suffer through an obnoxious row of enemies with electric attacks that are more potent in the rain. It's a very long and annoying process. However, once you get to Zora's domain, everything starts looking up. The domain itself is beautiful, and the entire quest with the Divine Beast is probably my second favourite in the entire game. From getting the Zora clothing, that lets you swim up waterfalls, to your shock arrow collection task, the part where you ride Sidon, oops sorry, wrong image, to the Varuta dungeon, it's all amazing and I love every bit of it. Even when you leave the domain, the beauty of Lanayru stands strong from almost any other region, with an emphasis on the blues. Most of the side quests here are also really good. The Line of Safari one, A Wife Washed Away. But unfortunately, there is one single side quest here that is so bad that single-handedly stopped me from putting Lanayru in S tier. And I think anyone who's played this side quest in English knows exactly which one I'm talking about. I'm talking about, of course, Special Delivery. Special Delivery is a quest in which you must help a little girl called Finlay deliver her letter to her soulmate by following it down the stream of the water and making sure that it's safe. Once you get the letter to the person in question, you find out that the person is a man named Sasan. But honestly, you might as well call him Sasan, because this guy is a fully grown Hylian going after a very young Zora girl. Now, while you could defend this by bringing up that Zora aged differently to Hylians, meaning that they're most likely at a similar age, it's clear that the age of maturity is also higher in Zora world. After all, I can't imagine an adult acting like this. So, what gives? Is this another case of Japan being weird? Well, actually no. Remember a few seconds ago when I said this? And I think anyone who's played this side quest in English knows exactly which one I'm talking about. Notice how I put an emphasis on English. Both the original Japanese dialogue and the dialogue in other countries like Germany is actually just perfectly fine. It just simply says that these two are in a relationship and nothing more. If you want to know more about this, there's a video by Nintendo Black Crisis that goes over it pretty well. I genuinely don't know what Nintendo of America was smoking when they translated this, but I think someone over there needs to have their hard drive checked. I'm giving Lanayru a tier, but I kind of want to give it a C for Cupcake. Dueling peaks? More like dueling mids. Alright, that isn't fair. The area of Dueling Peaks does have a few cool things. For one, it's the region of Kakariko Village, which I obviously don't need to explain the significance of, but even beyond that, the place has some very cool world building. You can learn about the Yiga clan here, as well as the history of Hyrule. The side quests here are also really nice. Most of them involve simple things like helping a guy with his lost chickens, or playing games with a little girl. One of my favourite side quests in the whole game is here, in which you just simply bring some fireflies into a girl's house and see her face light up when she sees them. It's genuinely really sweet seeing this girl get excited over something so trivial. It's a great reminder that happiness can be found anywhere, even in the smallest of things, and it really does fill my cold dark heart with some happiness and joy. This is also the area where you can meet Hetsu. This guy or girl, I'm really not sure what Hetsu is, can also increase your weapon slots in exchange for finding some of his children. Seems like a good deal, and of course I can't talk about this area without bringing up its history and the lore, which, as the area itself features Fort Hateno, the area in which Link had his last stand in order to protect Zelda. It's really nice for both world building and side quest. It also features one of my favourite shrines, or shall I say, two of my favourite shrines. You see, on the top of the peaks there are two shrines with names that are very similar, and the challenge name is the exact same, Twin Memories. Both shrines feature a bunch of balls and switches in a particular pattern, but they are different from one another. The idea is that you need to remember the pattern or just screenshot like a bitch, and then go into the other shrine and reorganize the balls into a pattern in order to complete the shrine. This is honestly one of my favourite shrines because of how creative it is, and I really wish we got more like this. You know what? I was wrong. The Dueling Peaks is peak, especially for an early game area and your intended first area that you're supposed to go to. I'm going to give it an A tier. Ridgelands is fucking horrible. The area is the definition of lame. The design of the area is so boring it's laughable. I especially hate this stupid gorge. I hate it with a burning passion, it's so ugly. The area also features two of my least favourite shrine quests. One is a Trial of Thunder, in which you have to deliver coloured balls into switches, but the problem is the area is stuck in a perpetual state of rain and thunder. In other words, London. If you don't know, I live in London, and as such this area hits too close to home. But the shrine quest I hate even more than this one is the one that requires you to shoot an arrow between two holes. During my first playthrough, this area drove me insane, and it still does. I fucking hate it. I honestly would put this area in bottom tier, right in F, but it does have one saving grace. Satori Mountain. Do I even need to talk about this area? It's absolutely beautiful. It has a bunch of bloopies, the Lord of the Mountain which you can ride, and not to mention that the entire area is a tribute to the late Nintendo president Satoru Iwata. Not gonna lie, that's incredibly sweet. I'm gonna give the Ridgelands a C tier, but know that if it wasn't for Satori, it would be an F. The Wastelands is interesting. On one hand, traversing through the desert is a real pain, especially since you can't bring your horsey here, and walking through the area is impossible due to the sands. Not to mention, of course, the weather. Just like in real life deserts, during the day it's extremely hot, but during the night it's extremely cold. All of these issues make your first time coming here an absolute pain, but once you embrace the life of becoming a femboy, things become much easier. Gerudo Town is probably my second favourite town, not just because it's full of attractive women, although they certainly help, but the town is just beautiful, and it's definitely one of my favourite depictions of the area in the entire Zelda series. Seeing the women practice fighting, listening to them in the bar, everything feels so tightly connected and I love it. The area also features some of my favourite shrine quests, the Noble Pursuit shrine quest, the Seven Sisters, the Sand Seal race, so many iconic ones. Not to mention that this is the only area where you can fight Mordugas, which are my favourite mini-boss, and Thunderboros is also a really good dungeon, and Thunder Witch Ganon is the most difficult and entertaining Ganon fight in the game. I also really enjoyed the Zonai maze here, and the snowy area up on the top of the wasteland. Oh, it's so damn relaxing, it's so chill, I truly enjoy it. Honestly, even though the beginning of the wasteland fucking sucks, the rest of it is fantastic, and in my opinion, it will be my first S tier. The Great Plateau is probably the best designed tutorial level of any video game ever. The entire thing is so well designed that it deserves its own video. It perfectly teaches things to the player, without feeling like it's holding your hand. For example, when the player sees a bunch of food lying near a campfire and a bowl, they come to a natural conclusion that they can cook. And once they go out to a snow area on the higher points of the map, they learn about status effects and understand that they need something to warm themselves up. And they come back down. They either see the spicy peppers and come to the conclusion that they need to cook something in order to make cold resistant food, or they go to another area and come back later when they find a wounded blade. You see what I'm talking about here, right? The Great Plateau naturally gives the player hints as to their objective without stuffing it in their face. There are so many great things I could talk about here regarding the Great Plateau, but we're on the time limit here, so I'm just going to give it an S rank and move on. Spoiler alert, but I do not like any of the 3 snowy areas that much, but I do think Haraba is the best of the 3. It's really beautiful, and the landscape of the area is pretty flat, which makes traversal much easier. There's a bunch of interesting things here too. For some reason, this icy cold environment has 3 random hot balls. I don't know why they're here, but they're really cool. There are also other areas like this of interest, like this shack. This area where you can shield sled, and this one you can do snowballing, a zonai maze, and 3 liners right next to each other, which you can fight for the shits and giggles. But my absolute favourite thing about this area are the cave shrines. Not because of the shrines themselves, these are very basic. But once you discover this shrine, you hear the most beautiful song in the game in my opinion. Absolutely amazing. I would give Haraba an S tier, but again it's a snowy area, which unfortunately takes it down to an A. Next up we have Elden. And I really don't have any strong opinions on this place. The area exists, the Divine Beast exists, the boss fights exist, the quest exists. I genuinely don't have any strong feelings towards Elden. There is absolutely nothing about this area that I hate, but there is nothing that I love either. It's quite literally one of the locations of all times. These hot springs are pretty nice though. Anyways, I'll be putting Elden
Alright, I get it!
on the same tier as Lake, in mid. The Gerudo Highlands is just plain awful in my opinion. First of all, this area doesn't need to be a separate tower from the Wastelands. Just have both areas be revealed together. It's not that hard. Second of all, remember all the good things I said about Haraba? Well, take all of those away and boom, you got the Gerudo Highlands. There's no interesting areas here, nothing fun to do. And besides the Ape Sister and her sword, there is absolutely nothing about this area that's worth talking about either. Nothing about this area makes it special from any of the other snowy peaks. Worst of all, the terrain is dreadful. Constant hills everywhere, rocky paths, and worst of all, it's so ungodly foggy up here during the night that's impossible to see where you're going. I absolutely hate this area and it gets a rock solid F tier. Alright, this video is going on for way too long, so let's just speed this up. Let me just quickly talk about some straight up mid areas. First of all, Hateno. Mid! The only cool thing about this area is that you have the ability to change your clothes here. The Hateno Tech Lab, and the silly little side quest where you save one of the dragons from being corrupted by malice. Besides that, it's boring. Quite literally nothing worth talking about here. And the snowy area is so unbelievably plain that it might as well not exist. Tabantha. Mid! Guys, I'm gonna be completely honest. There were so many times while I was writing the script where I almost completely forgot to include Tabantha. Because besides the Rito village, what is there to talk about here? Absolutely nothing. And finally, the woodlands. Mid! Just like the Tabantha, remove the Korok forest and the dark forest, and what do you have? Hills, hills, and more hills. Okay, these last 3 areas are my personal favourites. Let's start off with Faerun. By the way, is it pronounced Faerun or Faerun? Anyways, I love this area. The absolutely amazing jungle setting, the waterfalls and the ruins make this place stand out from almost any other area in Hyrule. The area contains a bunch of Zonai ruins. The Zonai are heavily implied to have been strong savage warriors who built the labyrinths that we see all across the other regions. We don't know much about them, but it's clear that we'll learn more about them in Tears of the Kingdom, based on the footage we've seen. Besides that, the area is also incredibly useful. You can farm both mighty bananas and hearty durians over here. I don't think I need to explain just how useful those two are. The area also features a bunch of memorable landmarks, including this heart-shaped pond, but my absolute favourite thing about the area is Laurelland Village. It's absolutely wonderful, a Hawaii-inspired village that serves absolutely no narrative purpose, but it's just a nice area that puts my mind at ease. I absolutely love it, and I especially love the music here. And do I even need to mention Eventide Island? It's absolutely iconic. Although there are some things that I don't like about the area, it isn't enough for me to give this anything less than S tier. Next we move on to Central Hyrule, and honestly I don't even really need to say much about this area. Hyrule Castle alone is enough to give this area an S tier. It's one of the best designed dungeons probably in the entire Zelda series. But even if we ignore that, there's so much here worth talking about. First we have the Central Tower. I'm sure anyone who came to the Central Tower early in the game remembers the absolute pain of trying to climb it while dealing with the two guardians. It's challenging, but it is quite fun and it makes it stand out from the rest of the towers. Then of course we have the fact that the area itself is just swarming with guardians. When you come here to fight in the early game, they're an absolute nightmare, but by the time you reach endgame, they're basically walking loot. It's a nice way of making the player feel more powerful without even really trying too hard. But for me personally, the absolute standout here is the Hyrule Town ruins. The area is absolutely depressing. You can clearly see the remains of what used to be a bustling filled city, filled with people living great lives, and looking at remains, you can only imagine the horror that the citizens of Hyrule felt as they realized the inevitability of their final moments, a feeling elevated by the beautifully depressing OST. It's a truly amazing area and single-handedly makes this area an S tier region. And finally, we get to my personal favourite area in the entire game. It's none other than Akala. God, where do I even begin with this amazing and incredible area? Maybe I could start by talking about the ultimate aesthetic of the region. The brilliant mesh of oranges and yellows creating one of the best looking areas in the game. Maybe I can talk about the Akala Citadel and Tower, the amazing trek needed to get there, along with the lore that the area was the last stand of the citizens of Hyrule against Ganon. Maybe I could talk about the best Zonai labyrinth in the game. It's filled with guardians and even the cool sub-area that also has some strange implications to it. Maybe I can talk about how this is where you can find both Kilson and Robbie, two incredibly useful people that can help give you some incredibly useful gear. And obviously I don't think I need to talk about how amazing some of the agent weapons I can get from Robbie are. Or maybe I could talk about the best side quest in the game, From the Ground Up, an incredibly long side quest that requires you to go all around the world, collect a bunch of wood, but damn if it isn't worth it to see this town slowly get built up from the ground up. Hey, I see. And you see it slowly prosper into a fully developed town. It fills you with a sense of joy. It makes you feel it fills you with a sense of joy knowing that, damn, I did that. I brought the wood here. I brought the wood that he's using here. I invited those people. I'm helping rebuild Hyrule. In fact, that's another great thing about building it up. In contrast to the destroyed Hyrule town that truly sets in just how much was lost during the calamity, Terry Town shows how even after losing everything, the citizens of Hyrule never lose hope and are able to take necessary steps to return Hyrule to its former glory. That, in my opinion, makes From the Ground Up an absolute masterpiece. Oh, and I guess I should mention that there's a guy over here where you can buy a bunch of lost items from, including the Hylian Shield. Certainly helps make this a top tier area. But yeah, Akala is going on the very top of S tier. An absolutely amazing region in my personal opinion. Alright, that's my list. If you disagree with it, go fuck yourself. And if you do agree with it, go take care of yourself. Bye. Oh, and the Ace Attorney investigation video is almost ready.